We have two items that are very important to the portfolio committee this morning. And I want to immediately indicate that we will not be able to postpone any item today. So we have to make sure that we finish the items that we have on the agenda today. I think there are about 3 of them, but two of them are very important. We can't postpone. Albertina, may I request that you flight the agenda? The first item on the agenda is the a briefing by the minister on the foot and mouth disease, the update since it was declared a disaster in the country. And we agreed as a portfolio committee that we are going to make sure that the item is a standing item from today onwards until we have the situation under control. The next item is for the portfolio committee, which is the consideration and adoption of the Committee Oversight Visit Report, the one for the Eastern Cape. I have seen that it's a very long report and it has so much information there. And then the last one is the consideration of the adoption of the minutes. So I want to declare this meeting officially open, colleagues, and request if there are apologies to be indicated, Albertine.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members, and our guests and everybody on the platform. Chair, we've got the apology from MP Sin. She's attending another portfolio committee. And also, Minister Chair is requesting to be excused at 12:15 today. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to believe that, Minister, by that time will be done. Because as I said earlier on, that we have other items that we may not necessarily postpone today. However, the update on the foot and mouth disease is very, very important, and therefore we do want you to be here, and we will be assisted by you, Minister, and your team. DG, good morning. I didn't see that you were here. And the other colleagues that are here that I may not have seen you, I may not have indicated, but honorable members, you are welcome to your own meeting. Now, Minister, we will be assisted by yourself and the DG when you present. We would like to give you 20 minutes for presentation, and we take more of the time in the discussions. I want to believe that probably by 11:11 we will be done with the discussions, given how you're going to assist us in the responses of the questions of the members as they want clarification on a number of things. I realize that so much has happened in the past week. You've received the vaccines. We would definitely want to know how they were distributed, and I think members have so many other questions that they would like to know. Honorable Minister, members on their own have been able to go and visit and do oversight visits to the areas that are affected, some here in the Western Cape and some in Mpumalanga in the Eastern Cape, and all of them from their provinces, those that are coming from Limpopo and KZN. They have done so because we agreed that we are going to do that every week when we go home. We're going to try and check the situation. So as much as we are going to get these updates from yourself, as a department minister, we also have members themselves, or members going to see what really is happening on the ground. So I want to hand over to yourself, Minister, and lead us in terms of the presentation. And as I said, we're giving you 20 minutes for the presentations because we would like to take more of the time in the discussions. And because members have received the documents, they've had the documents and they've read. I'm sure they're just wanting you to indicate. Honorable Sharon, can you please mute? I see that
Sorry,
you
Chair.
already...
Chair, sorry, good morning. Good morning to everyone on the platform. Before we start, Chair, I just wanted to ask a question. Am I honorable?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, my question is, before we debate this rollout, will the department put on a record the entities signed terms of reference, mandate, membership, and Chair, what decisions it is authorized to take, and how it can prevent duplication and bypassing of the normal commands in animal health and provincial veterinary services, Chair. Before we start with the briefing session, can we just put that on record for me?
I couldn't hear what you were saying there, Honorable David. You have very bad network where you are, and I'm not very sure whether the other members have heard you. Wouldn't the
Chair, must I say it again?
Wait. Wouldn't
Okay. Chair, I just want them to put on record before we debate the rollout. The department must put on record the entities.
Honorable David.
Signed, yes.
Honorable David, please. I am asking a question as to wouldn't it wait until they make a presentation and then you ask that question? Is it a question that comes before the presentation?
Okay, Chair. Chair.
Wouldn't that question wait until the department led by the minister make the presentation? Then you can ask that question.
We can wait, Chair, it's fine.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Let me hand over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to you and good morning to members. Chairperson, at the outset, I want to say thank you for having us this morning. I also just want to indicate that I will seek a meeting with you, but it's not going to be possible for me to be attending every single meeting, but we will certainly make sure that at every meeting there is an update of the latest available. There are a number of unfolding crises in the agriculture sector, not least of them being foot and mouth disease, but there are other issues that also require attention. The sugar sector, there's big problems in the wheat sector, and we're heading to some issues with the maize sector as well. And these also require my attention. And so it's not possible for me to attend every single meeting. I'll obviously attend as many as I can, but we will make sure that there is a presentation. Chairperson, I'll hand over to the DG to introduce those who will do the presentation this morning. Just to answer the Honourable David's, before we make the presentation, in case it's not covered, the Ministerial Task Team is an advisory body to the Ministry and to the Department. It's made up of 50% veterinarians of the state and officials, and 50% of the private sector. I'd refer the Honourable Davids to the press statement that I issued about 2 to 3 weeks ago. The full breakdown of membership is there. If she's unable to find that, we can furnish her with that information. But it was all made public at that particular press conference where I read the individual names out there. The only change since then is that Dr. Dani Odendaal, who did not want to sign a non-disclosure agreement, given the fact that people are dealing with commercially sensitive and of course other sensitive information. He has since been replaced by Dr. Bauer, who represents the wildlife sector, and that is obviously important given the fact that there is an interface between buffalo and other wild animals and FMD, and it was a gap that we had identified in the Ministerial Task Team. In terms of the Animal Health Act, the Director Animal Services or their nominees are our decision makers, but there are other areas where in the Act where the Minister is the decision maker. The MTT does not make decisions; it advises and provides technical assistance to the Minister and, of course, to the Department. And that was as a result of the FMD Bosberaad that was held in July last year. One of the resolutions was the formation of that body in line with government's whole of society approach. Thank you. Over to you, DG.
DG, you may not have unmuted.
Chair of the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, since Chair has got very limited time, I am with Dr. Mudisani and DDG Sarache on the platform. And the presentation, Dr. Mudisani, please go through with the presentation.
Thank you very much, DG. Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee. And thanks to the honorable members. May I request that the presentation be flighted? This is going to be a briefing on the current state of foot and mouth disease and where we are up to so far. What have we considered in terms of incorporating the suggestions that are coming from the public and also from the MECs and from the provinces, from industry too, and maybe a short reminder on the intention of the mass vaccination strategy. Next slide. Looks like I have a problem similar to yesterday. Thank you very much. And then the Northern Cape has reported an outbreak last week. And then because of that outbreak, there has been some trace forward in terms of finding out where the outbreak could have been originating from. And the Western Cape also reported an outbreak last week. And then there has been some vaccinations that have been going on in the two provinces, particularly from the vaccine that we obtained from the ERC. The next slide is a table of the update of the current situation, and members will notice that there are differences in terms of confirmed outbreaks and suspect outbreaks and reported outbreaks. The situation changes on a daily basis because of...
Sorry, Chair, we can't see that table that's being referred to.
Yes, it's not moving. The presentation is not moving at all. It's still sitting on the first page. Thank you, Honorable Trolley. Dr. try something else. Anna?
I wasn't projecting. I thought it was being projected from that side. I had the same problem with my laptop yesterday.
And now?
No, it's
If I
fine.
press
Can you try and move it, Anna, and let's see if it does, because it's still on the first page, on the first slide, by the way.
Okay.
It's still on the first page, Anna, on my side.
And now?
Yes, it has moved. Next page. Yes, that is the update on the situation. Next slide. That is the table I was referring to. Thank you very much. There are 1,072 confirmed outbreaks, but there are suspects. As we were writing this presentation, 714 suspects and 836 open outbreaks. Next slide. Next slide. And then on the next slide is the map that is showing us.
Doctor, you are going to have a problem here with us today. We cannot be held under ransom with the presentation that's not moving.
Okay.
Thank you. Continue.
The map is showing, it's the heat map of the occurrences, particularly if we look in the Western Cape, we can see the new points where the outbreaks had taken place, and then also in the Northern Cape. But this map is forever changing. We can see the yellow part mainly is the outbreaks that have taken place in 2025, and the red dots are mainly the new outbreaks that has taken place this year. Next slide. The control measures that we are employing, if we detect a positive farm, is to quarantine that farm. We institute movement restrictions. If we get lesions at the abattoir, we dispose of high-risk parts, and then we vaccinate the affected heads, especially in high-risk areas. We do some identification and traceability of infected animals and vaccinated ones, and then we conduct surveillance to detect any early infections or infections that we can find. And then we also do encourage owners to declare prior to movements and isolate their animals for 28 days. Next slide. And then in the process of employing these control measures, we often get some challenges related to illegal movements, false health declarations, sending of animals with clinical signs to auctions, and then often the clinical signs are not reported, and we don't get an opportunity to go and visit those animals. And then to a very large extent, we also get interrupted vaccine availability, and there is a huge overload at the laboratories. We have also proposed some solutions on the right-hand side. For instance, with the laboratories, we are encouraging provincial laboratories in the veterinary services to assist with the diagnosis. And then we have also encouraged in terms of illegal movements to avoid intensive gathering of animals per se in one area. Next slide. Up to so far, honorable members, the ministerial task team has proposed a strategy that we are employing, that we requested the MECs to approve. And then areas that we had already declared as disease management areas, we are removing the restrictions to recognize the fact that the disease seems to have spread further than the current disease management areas. And then we are looking at the contingency plan in terms of revising it. We have done that, and it is already been discussed at the ministerial task team. Next slide. We are going to be declaring, and it is en route to the Minister for Gazetting, a Section 10 scheme on voluntary vaccination. That is to look at those animals that have not had the disease yet, to prevent the disease from getting and establishing in them. And the Minister had last year gazetted a schedule under Section 9 of the Animal Diseases Act, wherein the Gazette was prohibiting the coming together and moving of cloven-hoofed animals without conforming to certain conditions like owner declaration, like standing still for 28 days, and reintroduction into another farm, and mixing of the new animals and the old animals in that farm. There were comments that were made, including we had not included the pigs, and this mainly came from the MECs and HODs, and we have included that, and we have taken it back for re-gazetting for the new schedule to be gazetted. Other provinces were requesting that there should be intra and inter-provincial movements, but there was a recommendation to rather have all these requirements in the whole country rather than base it as a provincial matter. Next slide. And then to try to comply to the guidelines, we have presented the strategy on mass vaccination to the sectors, to the clusters, and then we have also presented the mass strategy, vaccination strategy to Cabinet on the 18th of February. And members may know that the foot and mouth disease outbreak was declared as a disaster on the 13th, on the week ending 13th February. On Saturday, we received 1 million doses from Argentina. Today, they have been checked from yesterday up to now. We're checking the thermographs, and our colleague just finished, and provinces are already collecting those vaccines to be utilized in the respective provinces. We'll be updating the committee as regularly as we possibly can related to the other issues. And next slide. Maybe we are also expecting another consignment of vaccine. This week, we still haven't determined when is it actually arriving. We are still waiting for the way bill, and it's going to be a 1,500,000 doses of the 3 sats that we will be receiving. The next few slides are just a reminder of the portfolio committee of the mass vaccination strategy. If you go to the previous slide, please. That it is based on the 7 control pillars: risk-based vaccination strategy, strengthening of diagnostics and laboratory network, surveillance, movement, control. And then we are going to emphasize the trade support mechanisms for communal systems. And we will also be looking at commercial systems to a very large extent as we embark into a process of progressive zoning and compartmentalization. The compartmentalization approach is also to encourage trade to take place internationally related to safe commodities. And then we have embarked on massive awareness campaigns with the establishment of a war room and also a special line for questions and answers to come to the department. Next slide. The next slide basically is on next slide, the previous one, please. The phases of the strategy, phase 1 up to 4, with the first phase being mainly stabilization, second phase being consolidation, and the third phase being withdrawal of vaccination, and then regaining of freedom in the fourth phase. In the first phase, the intention is to vaccinate up to 70 to 80% of the national head to stabilize the situation, and then we'll be consolidating in the next years, and then withdrawing vaccination and going for regaining of status. And then there is, in the next slide, also the focus on the provinces. And this is very significant for members to also note that KwaZulu-Natal currently has been the epicenter of the disease, but we are seeing many more cases now in the Free State province. And we have moved, we haven't really moved focus from KwaZulu-Natal, but we are including the Free State in terms of trying to arrest the disease in these 2 provinces. And we will be providing them with lots of vaccines to try and arrest the disease. But it is not that we are ignoring other provinces. In Limpopo, for instance, we take cognizance of the fact that there is a control zone. We have to continue controlling the disease in Limpopo and in Mpumalanga based on the possible aggression of buffaloes from the Kruger National Park. In the next slide, there is also a consideration to seeing that the Eastern Cape, the disease is evolving there, and also noting that the Eastern and Western Cape, including part of KZN, there is many dairy animals in that area. So we have to to protect the dairies from getting the disease. And as indicated, Limpopo, we also have to consider the buffalo population in that province. The next slide is the last slide, which is a recommendation slide. We recommend to the portfolio committee that it takes note of the current update, and then also for the portfolio committee to take note of progress that is being made in terms of implementation of the strategy. There are challenges, but we are trying very hard to come up with solutions for the challenges. Minister, DG, I submit.
Sorry, Dr. Modisani, through you, Chair. I think there was a request to just flight or outline the million vaccines, the distribution for the country. Thanks.
Okay.
Yes, I am trying to share.
Okay.
To try and flight it. I don't seem to be.
Can you ask someone else to help Anna? Where is she? Send it to her.
Host disabled participant screen sharing. I can talk to it.
So, just hold on a sec. Ntanta and the team, can you allow Dr. Mutiseli to share?
Let me talk to each Chairperson if it is not too much. The 1 million doses that we received on Saturday have been distributed. Like Gauteng will get 70,000 doses. KwaZulu-Natal will be getting 200,000 doses. Mpumalanga will be getting 100,000 doses. Northwest is also getting 100,000. Northern Cape is getting 50,000. Free State is also getting 200,000. Eastern Cape will be getting 150,000. Western Cape will be getting 30,000, and Limpopo 100,000. I wish to explain why we gave Northern Cape and Western Cape so little. It looks very little. At the time when the vaccine was distributed, we had thought that there were very few outbreaks in the Northern Cape, and we were just giving them to manage the situation around Kuduman. And then Western Cape, we were giving them the 30,000 to manage the situation in the outbreak areas. But we were hoping that as soon as the other vaccine from Turkey arrives, then we will be distributing the vaccine according to the risk. As I indicated, the risk would be every time there is a new outbreak, we will go in and vaccinate a 10-kilometer radius around the vaccination farm to ensure that we keep the disease in that area. So that is the reason. Yes, I can send this list to the portfolio committee to note it. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Dr. That presentation that you are making now, that you are offering, if possible, to send to the portfolio committee, it was supposed to be part of this presentation, so that the members of the portfolio committee does have the information as part of the presentation for future purposes and for future reference. So if we don't have it now, it's easy for the portfolio committee to miss it because the document that we have doesn't have. And you had this information before you came here. So may I then request that in future you don't do that, you include it in one document. And of course, we do need that. And that's why I wanted you to flag it. But thank you very much for the presentation. Honorable members, there is your presentation. DG, I don't know whether you want to come back before I take the members.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Let us apologize for the information that is not with the members, but Dr. Mudisani will immediately send that distribution list, which is part and parcel of the strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Let me take Honorable David, then Honorable
Galane.
Honorable David, and then Honorable Smith. Colleagues, Honorable David, can you use your mic?
Okay,
It will be.
I don't know if you can see my hand.
Chair, really, can we just get order in this meeting, because everybody's shouting on at one time. People can raise their hands on the platform. I mean, we haven't been using this for the first time now.
It's not always that the gadget is working, Honorable Smith. That's why we are raising it.
Okay, colleagues, just
Thank you.
But colleagues, it's not acceptable that you switch on your mics and we listen to other people talking when we're in a meeting. That's not acceptable. If you can't be in this meeting, colleagues, can you just go out so that you don't disturb us? We're discussing very important things. And please switch off your mic. It's going to be Honorable David, Honorable Smith, Honorable Ndalane, Honorable Trollip, Honorable Nkabane, Honorable Aris, Honorable Telekulu, who is Andile?
It's Honorable Mutama, Chairperson.
Oh, okay, thank you. Mutama. Let me just repeat it, colleagues, so that I don't leave. Oh, I left Honorable Muthetwa. It's Honorable Smith, Honorable Dalani, Honorable Trolley, Honorable Nkabane, Honorable Aris Kositebekulu, Honorable Ngatama, and Honorable Mcheto. You follow each other like that. Honorable David, you start. Honorable David.
Yes, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the department for the presentation. Chair, but I want to go back to my first question. The minister have answered the question, but they only answered partly with the membership. My question was also including the reference, the term of reference for the MTT, and also the mandate of the MTT. Because, Chair, why I'm asking that is because we don't want duplications, Chair, or bypassing of any of the normal chain of the command in the animal health and the provincial veterinary services. That is why I asked that question. Then my second question, Chair, is the presentation shows operations and documents being prepared and routed via the entities, yet the Public Service Act places efficient administration with the DG, and the PFMA makes the DG the accounting officer responsible for implementation. Now, Chair, the department must give us a precise rollout plan how the first million doses and the March batch that must still come will be allocated province by province. Then the department just told us now that the MTT have give the strategy how the rollout must happen. So my follow-up question is, Chair, my other question is, how did the MTT come to that strategy? Was there any communication or interaction with the stakeholders and with the farmers and with the communities before they gave that strategic plan to the department on how the doses must be rolled out? And then my other question, Chair, is will the department agree to giving 24 to 48 hours reports to the committee on the rollout and on all the challenges they're having in the different provinces? Because as you said in the beginning, Chair, we go in my area for Drakensberg, there was a breakout, but up till now, that community is still complaining that no assistance were given to them. And this morning on the radio also, farmers were complaining that they don't get any assistance. So it's important, Chair, that we need as a committee, need to be hands-on. We need to follow what is happening in each province around this rollout of this doses. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Smith.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity and thank you for the presentation. Honorable Chair, I've got a few questions. The first one would be in terms of the responsibility roles, where it start and end for OBP, that is the distributing agent as far as I understand. Up to what level is that distribution taking place? What role is provinces playing, you know, in the vaccination rollout? So that we know exactly how to keep the institutions as well as the provinces accountable as well for that specific, because we need to understand, you know, the different roles and competencies between what national department is supposed to do and what the province is supposed to do, straight down to district level. So that we can monitor this to the T. The second question I have is with regards to the allocation that has been presented now. Is there already by provinces plans submitted to the national department on the distribution of their allocation? and how are they balancing the different interests amongst different needs, in terms of communal, in terms of commercial, in terms of feedlots, as well as, between different areas throughout the province, because that is one of the concerns that's coming through from the ground with farmers, is that that communication coming through to them in terms of the exact rollout, so that they know how the flow is happening. The next question would be if there's any indication of the next batches coming in. How quickly can we expect follow-up batches? And then my last question is on the vaccinations that took place in 2025, the 2 million vaccinations that happened, because that is limited to 3 to 4 months, then they need to get another vaccination. What is the status of that? Because if we don't do the follow-up, it's going to be a problem. Then it means, those animals, then it's wasted in terms of those specific vaccinations. I'm going to stop with that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nalana.
No, thanks, Chair, and good morning. And let me also welcome the presentation made by the DG through the doctor. Doctor. I think some of the questions are covered by Ms. Davis, and especially on that issue of terms of reference. I'll go straight to the minister that really, when he tried to answer some of the questions that have been raised. Minister, you indicated that you appointed the advisory ministerial task team. And I want to know exactly what is the role of the task team. I know that they are advising you. And what is the role of the DG? Because if they're doing the work for the department, and what is the DG's doing also? Are they reporting to the DG or straight? I know if it's an advisory, definitely they have to advise you. But the DG, the role of Ntwana, the DG is to implement. So the relationship between the DG and then the task team, what is that? And also the deputy minister, are you working together with her so that she's up to scratch? And this one will go to the department. What is the current extent of the FMD outbreak and which areas are most affected? You have indicated some of the things, but we need more details. How effective are the vaccination campaign and what's the plan for the booster shot? And what measures are in place to prevent the spread to unaffected areas? The last one, I think, Chairperson, I will propose to this committee that let's also do the oversight visit, and then you'll direct us as to where we can first go to those areas. Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Trolley.
Thank you very much, Chair. My first question would be to the Minister around non-disclosure. The Minister says that the team is made up, the ministerial task team is made up of vets, private and public, officials from the department, as well as people from the private sector. Now, I believe that people from the private sector includes private vets, as well as representatives from organized agriculture. Now, if you have representatives from organizations that represent farmers, how can they be expected to sign non-disclosure when they are actually representing organizations and should be giving them feedback. That's my first question. Then, Chair, it's now clear that all 9 provinces are affected, and the heat map shows that the northern provinces are worst affected, including the Free State, which is a central province, and then fast spreading in the Eastern Cape. I'm very pleased to hear that there is an element of proactive vaccination in high-risk areas, where we've been told that if there's an outbreak, vaccination of uncontaminated herds within a 10-kilometer radius will be vaccinated, because this is the best way, most effective way to slow the spread of the disease. Is the National Department coordinating with provincial departments that are also making disaster relief funding available? I know for a fact that in the Eastern Cape, the MEC for Agriculture made an announcement of 50 million rand being availed for disaster funding to combat foot and mouth disease. How's that being? How are you collaborating with the provinces to ensure that the money is effectively used? Then to the Minister as well, vaccine procurement. We've seen significant delays in the arrival of these vaccines. We have a lot of rumor mongering around cost of vaccines. I'd like to know what the cost of these vaccines are landed. And then why have local agencies been accredited and then accreditation taken away? For example, with Design Biologics, their accreditation was not approved or was then removed, and OBP is now the agency for Biogenesis Bago. And why is JuneVax then continuing as a local import agency for Dolvet vaccines? I need clarity on that. And then the presenter said that there were gazettes, Section 9 and 10 Gazette schedule amendments made in June 2025, and that they'd been submitted to the Minister. Have these Gazette schedules been amended and signed off by the Minister? And then we need some kind of clarity on what's happening with the awareness campaigns. It's not good enough to tell us that there are war rooms. We need to know what is being done with regards to awareness of this disease, to prevent speculation and also to prevent non-disclosure. And then I was very pleased that we've got some clarity on which are the priority provinces, being KZN and the Free State, with Limpopo and Mpumalanga being declared control zones or identified as control zones. The Eastern Cape is evolving and fast spreading, and it borders on the Western Cape. And I see that the Western Cape has got the smallest allocation of 30,000 doses, yet it is also a big dairy producing province, whereas the Northern Cape has received 50,000 doses, and they are an extensive beef producing area where FND outbreaks have less of an impact than they do on dairy operations. So why is there that differential in the allocations of the 2 new outbreak provinces, Northern Cape and Western Cape? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Trollip. Honourable Ngabane.
Thank you so much, Chairperson, and good morning to honourable members, the Minister and the Minister's team. One, Chair, I'm also going to join honourable members who have welcomed the presentation because it is empowering on our side as the Portfolio Committee. However, Chair, I'm going to ask 3 questions. Just to get clarity, the presentation is indeed comprehensive, but I need some kind of clarities. For instance, it is clear from slide 7, 8, I think, and 9 on some of the control measures, because they've done SWOT analysis to understand the problem and its magnitude. It's clear when you look at the presentation. So what I want to get is that the presentation indicated that they have developed a mass vaccination strategy and contingency plan. And KZN is the epicenter of the disease, which then covers the last part that they presented on saying, these are the priority areas. This is the distribution plan or allocation of vaccines to different provinces. It means the criteria indeed is clear there. But what I want to establish is that the control measures are there and they are clear. In terms of our internal capacity in the department, Minister, and through you, Chair, do we have enough inspectors to ensure compliance or to enforce these measures, control measures that we have put in place? Because we can put measures, but if we do not have capacity to monitor the implementation of those measures, things are not going to be fine, or we are not going to address the problem that we're saying we're facing currently. As much as, Chair, we welcome all these efforts that they are proposing to say, this is the plan, these are the strategies and end. What is your proactive integrated FMD control strategy in an effort to eliminate or more effectively control FMD in the current and the near future? Because when you look at the approach currently, we are reacting from what has already happened. So what is the plan moving forward so that we are not found wanting, so that we are not reacting or reactive in our approach as we move forward? The second question, Chair, is around infrastructure challenges and communal livestock. They indicated that some of the communal land is not fenced, so it's easy for animals to cross from one area to another. What I want to get there is that, are there any measures that you have put in place to address infrastructure challenges? Because if we do not also focus and prioritize infrastructure development, it will mean then these animals will keep on infecting, and also infecting our neighboring countries. The last question, Chair, is on the presentation where it indicates that there are direct and indirect losses due to FMD outbreaks. Others are visible and others are invisible. And they have serious economic consequences for domestic as well as international markets. So my worry is around those communal farmers. At least with commercial farmers, they understand, they have policies, they have contingency plans that they put in place to ensure that if there are disasters of this nature, they are covered. But with communal farmers, I don't think there is such. I want to establish if there are any compensation or relief funds of some sort that has been secured to mitigate serious economic consequences, in particular to those communal livestock farmers. Hence, small scale do not have reserves, they do not have insurances. So what is it that you are going to put in place to close that gap? Otherwise, Chair, I think I'm good. I'm cool with the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kabane. That's Honorable Aras.
Yes, good morning, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentation. Chairperson, I just want to find out what is the role of the local Sophia, that is the municipalities and the district municipalities, specifically in the movement control measures in terms of quarantine. Because, Chairperson, the local authorities, they are the ones that know exactly in their municipal boundaries where the farmers are, specifically those farmers in rural areas that are not on the farmers register. You need to understand that the department is still busy with the farmer register, and those people that are not on the farmers register, specifically those ones in the very rural areas. And then I would also like to find out, Chairperson, what monitoring measures do you have in place to keep record of culled animals? Because remember that farmers are losing animals, They are losing their livestock, and at the end of the day, we will give some assistance for these farmers. And are there record keeping of animals, culled animals? And then what biosecurity protocols has been enforced on farms and at livestock auctions? And then also, Chairperson, I want to see that in terms of the training, do farmers get adequate training and support in order to prevent this FMD disease? And then also, what communication has been taken in terms of international trade partners? The department must tell us what they have put in place with the international trade partners. And then the last question, Chairperson, what measures have they put in place for the milk industry to standardize, the measures for the milk industry? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Eris. Nkosi Cebekulu.
Thank you, Chairperson. We've been with this challenge of FMD for quite a long time. It now sounds, or it looks like now it's something new that now the state has jumped on to start importing vaccines from other countries. Really, it shows we only act upon what we've now been faced with, as this has been spreading like wildfires, that it has covered now all the provinces of South Africa. Chair, my concern is around the fact that there were some instances when the enforcement was introduced to stop the movement of the livestock from the mostly affected areas to those identified as still free of the disease. But seemingly, the communication, I would say, communication or coordination between and or amongst the departments with regards to enforcement of the law when it comes to the movement of free movement of animals is very lacking. Some years back, we had these agricultural officers, the SEPs, were involved in trying to sort of stop people from moving their livestock up and down. We have people who are on commercial business in driving their goats from the areas where it was identified as the most affected areas in the northern KZN. People drive their goats, drive their livestock to sort of areas on the south without being stopped. That's the concern I have. The lack of commitment from the side of the law enforcement agents to stop this. Again, the free movement of livestock, the stray animals on our roads, which cross boundaries without being monitored and sort of enforced not to. Where are the impounding sections to drive those stray animals, check them, keep them on the pounding sections, in order to avoid the spread of the FMD. Two, Chair, I always listen when presentations are made, pointing the finger at the buffaloes, which are fenced in the nature conservation area or nature reserves. When shall we hear from the scientists dealing with the wildlife challenges to have a contribution towards maybe making attempts in maybe seeing that can these buffaloes, can they be treated as well? I'm of the view, Chair, that it can be done because we've seen some of the owners of these game reserves having taken the calves from the bigger reserves, treated them and kept them in safer places in order to be away from the FMD. Is it not possible then that nature conservation can as well try and make a drive towards dealing with the issue? Because if this FNB is identified as the sources buffers are identified as the source at times. Mind you, the proximity of communal livestock to graze along the fences of the game reserves where there are buffaloes might be one of those causes that is a contributing factor to the free flow or the spread. I'm sorry, of the spread of the FND to the areas where people are residing very close to the game reserves. Those are my views, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ndabezitha. Honorable Mqwetha.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation as well. I just have a couple of questions, Chair. Firstly, the issue of penalties. It is blatant, clear that the farmers are contravening the provisions of the law that seeks to quarantine for animals at given times. And this is creating a permanent state of crisis around this disease. So, what are the penalties which are currently available to those who contravene? And so, how many of white farmers in particular have been punished for contravening these provisions? Then there's the issue of the capacity for productions of vaccines. We normally get reports that the state entities are in good shape and they are able to meet the needs. But we hear this big imports which have been secured. So we need to get a very clear statement on what is the capacity of South African state entities to produce these vaccines. And if they don't have that capacity, what is the plan to make sure that that capacity is built? We can't rely on external interventions in something which is as strategic as this one. I hear that there's 1 million vaccines here and there which are being imported, but we have about 14 million head of cattle in South Africa. So how are we going to reach the animals if the imports themselves are as low as they are? So my final question, Chair, will be to get a sense of a distribution breakdown between commercial farmers and the small-scale farmers. and also to get a sense of the targets. Are there any targets being set in light of this 14 million head of cattle that we have in the country? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. It should be Honorable Mthethwa now.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and greetings to the Minister, Deputy Minister, greetings to the team and the DG and the officials and fellow members of the Departmental Committee. May I raise questions that are of intelligence in nature? One, the FMD, foot and mouth disease, is a statutory function in terms of the intervention that should be made to solve this problem. But I see the minister having 50% in his advisory team who are coming from the private sector advising a public sector minister. That already is a concern in terms of industrial espionage. Why I'm raising that? There is a thin line. If not, there's a clear dichotomy between public sector and private sector. The interest of private sector is to advance profit. And then here you are exposing the private sector who are advancing profit gains into a public sector that has an interest to solve a societal problem. So already there is a clash of interest. But be that as it may, the understanding is that they are helping you. But I need to state this point, is that it's been for a long time that we've been receiving vaccines from Botswana. We don't see South Africa standing up and going to Botswana to solve the problem. Now it's worse. We have now discovered that Argentina, Turkey, they can supply. Here is my economic question. Why does South Africa wait for the former colonies to produce solutions for the former colonized countries to still supply them? Is that not part of economic espionage, where always we export job creation opportunities by sending raw material to those countries in order for them to produce finished products that we must buy from them so that we can use them? This is wrong economically speaking. This is not how you run a state in terms of economics. But moving forward, I read something about the Rockefeller Creed. Rockefeller Creed, among other things, is saying they will use technology to infuse toxins in the food that is eaten by human beings and animals so as to create a crisis. And once a crisis is created, it opens a loophole for them to be able to invade and crush the economy, because foot and mouth disease is affecting meat-producing animals, it's affecting milk-producing animals, which is going to cause a scarcity in terms of food, and eventually people who are gapping, who are already patient vultures, they will be standing by to bring genetically modified food in our country, because we will be in short supply of organic food, which is supposed to be bred by these animal herds that is being destroyed through the FMD. Moving forward, FMD has been around and we stabilized it, and it's now emerging again. But as it emerges, it's like it's a new thing altogether. It is catching us with our pants down. We don't even know what to do. Let's look also at another problem. The veterinary doctor faculties in universities, it is exactly like in the olden days of Job Preservation Act, whereby certain faculties were earmarked for a certain rate, because this sector is wide controlled. I can prove to you, Minister, there is a group calling themselves Alternative Veterinary Council, which is a group of white people who stood together, and they were excited when you were announcing the interventions that you are making, which means they are about to make a kill during this disaster that we are going through as a country, because this FMD is exposing the fault line to the economy, especially in this sector. I know your narrative is going to say you just only came 2 years ago, so you were not responsible for the problems that happened before. But I want to confirm that the industry has been controlled by white people, even when there were other predecessors to you, which means the same people who were controlling this industry are still there. And this time around, I see them consolidating their interest in order to advance their agenda. I want to check, Minister, if have you vetted the interest of the private sector, 50% who are in your advisory team, have you vetted them to ensure that they are not going to commit espionage where exposing state information to private sector, which eventually is going to sabotage even further the interest of the country? Because clearly those who are controlling the private sector are the ones who are sabotaging the state so that they can take this thing forward. I have proved that we have seen that the vaccines were distributed by private sector on behalf of government. And what they do, they sell this vaccine back into the economy and they make a kill and they double the prices and they do hoarding. When people are needing stock, they say there's no stock so that they can price the stock at the highest bidder. These are things that we need to monitor exactly as we're going through this disaster. So please, Minister, why don't you employ all the 5,000 agricultural professionals graduates who are unemployed? Because we are now in a state of disaster, which means we must be all hands on deck. We need all those agricultural professionals. You repurpose them. Some of them have done animal production, so they will be able to understand what is happening in this disaster. But they are sitting at home. But private sector is working close with you. I don't see civil society bodies as you having advisors there. You need bodies that are actually of farmers in the communities. Amakosi should be actually part of your advisory team, because at a communal level, you have a different interface and dynamic how this disease is affecting our communities. This is our stable food. This is our stable business as the Black communities, but we are marginalized systematically and structurally by this. My last point is this one. During COVID, we saw dosages of vaccines being brought into the country without inspection, and they were having expiry dates upon arrival in our country. I wonder, have we checked these ones? Because it's very suspicious that as we are suffering from foot and mouth disease, suddenly there are stocks that are standing by waiting for an opportunity, but we suffered a problem where we imported vaccines that were staying and old, expired. Have we checked this? Are we not going to have another reverse injection of diseases that are deliberately made through these vaccines, as we will coming to inject these cells into our animals? Because we now know that technology, vaccine scientists are also involved in reverse affecting humankind and animals.
Point of order.
Thank you.
Honorable
Chairperson? Yes,
Yes.
point of order. Honorable Chair, I think it's really time that we address this matter. We have got, the privilege of being protected when we speak freely in Parliament, and as well as in the committee. But when one make frivolous accusations that is not founded against anybody in the country, I mean, we need to address, because that is misleading, and I think it is unparliamentary, number one, and it doesn't comply with freedom of speech, because that is absolutely false information that's been spread. And we've been listening to this now frequently, meeting after meeting after meeting, and it must be addressed. We cannot allow members to come and just make wild accusations without addressing these things. Really, we've been listening this now. It's now the second year that we've been hearing the same story over and over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Smith.
On a point of order, Chair.
I'm still addressing this point of order. You can't have a point of order over another point of order. Honorable Smith just raised a point of order. So it has to be another point, but not a point of order. Honorable Tam. Smith and colleagues, I think we've been together here for the same time that you're referring to, Honorable Smith. Excuse me. And many times I have addressed this matter with the Honorable Mteto, and I'm not winning. So you also have a right to raise it as you are raising it. And I think you have raised it several times. Honorable Trolley has raised it several times. It becomes tiring to keep on addressing the same thing for me too, honorable members. And I think you also have a right to raise this thing to assist me to address this matter. So we will again try and deal with it differently. I have tried different ways of handling it. I've tried to speak to Honorable Mteto, and yeah, maybe I should again have that kind of a discussion with him. Honorable Mtama, I said to you, it can be a point of order, but if you have something to raise, please do quickly so that we can then hand over back to the department to respond to the questions that you've asked.
No, Chair. I am appealing for equal treatment. If members don't agree with certain propositions, that does not mean that the member that's making those propositions has no right to do so. We're all equal members here, and Honorable Mteto is raising serious fundamental questions of broad nature which impact on the matter at hand. So if members do not agree with that, it is up to them to swallow it, just like we all do. But it cannot be censorship of views which are uncomfortable with certain members of this committee. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I think it's noted. Minister and
Chair, my apology. Sorry, Chair. I don't want to extend it. I just want to ask, because you've made a comment now on my point of order, and I think the appropriate thing to do, actually, Chair, is to ask the Honourable Mtetwa to withdraw those accusations, because if it is beyond freedom of speech, then it must be withdrawn. And I think this matter needs to start ending up in the ethics committee, because we cannot continue, and the powers, or either the ethics or powers and privileges committee, because we can't continue like this. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Smith, you have not indicated with comments that are not proper according to you, and that are not ethical. You also just broadened and said you've been listening to this kind of accusations, but you have not mentioned which accusations are there. And therefore, I can't choose which accusations you are talking about. Out of what?
Chair, they were so many. But one of them is that there's deliberately bringing vaccines into the country that is expired, that is deliberately done to infect our animals. I mean, that is factually incorrect, and it is malicious.
Yeah, Honorable Smith, I think that the department is here. It will respond to that matter on the allegations of the vaccines. You don't have to be responding on their behalf. We will hear if they indeed are importing those kind of vaccines, and we can make a ruling at a particular point.
Chairperson, point of clarity.
And who is speaking now? Because I have not pointed to anybody.
Your co-chair, Mazala.
Honorable Madlala. Go ahead.
Chairperson.
Yes.
I think Honorable Smith and Tetra. I think Tetra was making an example about the vaccine for COVID that was brought here. Was expired. Well, everyone in South Africa, they know there are other vaccines that were expired. Tetra referred to that, and they said there have to be a control whether that vaccine is not expired or is proper vaccine. I don't think it's a big issue, and we need to debate on that because Tetra was making an example. He didn't say Tetra didn't say they will bring the expired vaccine. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, colleagues. We are recording this meeting, so we will go back to the recordings and see what Honorable Mchetwa said, and then we'll discuss it later. Minister and the DG, I have two or three questions. The first one is I would like to know as to what is the meaning in practical terms of the foot and mouth disease having been declared as a disaster? I mean, in respect with financial resource availability and collaborations with other government departments such as SAPS and the Border Management Agency. Given the fact that the last time when we discussed this matter, and the minister said he is not controlling the police, he's not the Minister of Police, and therefore he wouldn't be able to answer for that. But I'm asking today, as we sit here, as we are making this update on the foot and mouth disease outbreak, after it has been declared a disaster, what does it mean in practical terms? The second part is that you've just mentioned in your presentation that you have an overloaded laboratory, which leads to a slow turnaround time in terms of the vaccines. I want to check as to the proposal that you have made of the provincial laboratories that should augment the ARC, whether they have to augment the ARC in conducting the capacity of the ARC in conducting the test. The question that I want to ask is in relation to in terms of infrastructure and technical and human resources capacity of the provincial laboratories, whether they will be able to conduct such tests. Is their capacity at the level where they can do that? And then lastly is additional to that, has the department considered engaging other science agencies with the capacity to assist with laboratory services? For an example, you have your CSIR, and they have indicated that they work with you as a department, and you have agreed at some point that you do collaborate, or that the ARC does collaborate with the CSIR. So the question is, have you considered them in terms of the availability and their capacity of the laboratory services? The last one, colleagues, Minister and DG and Dr. Modisan, slide 8 is very depressing, colleagues. It just shows really lack of enforcement. And colleagues have asked a question around enforcement as to how effective is it and how are you doing it? And are you able to enforce really? So when you go to that slide, you realize that it's not good at all. But lastly, or the last point, I said lastly before, I think the last point that I've forgotten to mention here is the shortage of vets and animal health technicians. You've had this problem for some time. So I want to check now that we have this situation, this disaster, and you are now sending vaccines to provinces, despite the fact that I've asked a question around their capacity of their laboratories to augment the work that is done by ARC. What is it? What progress that you have? What progress have you made in terms of the shortages that we're talking about now, of the technicians and the health technicians and the vets, especially in the provinces? I know that you've had challenges for some time now. Is there any progress? Are we sure that the vaccines that we're sending at the provinces are going to be distributed on time? And how are you going to deal with this constraint if it's still there? Just to close the gap that we have in the provinces, I just want to hear from yourself if we no longer have that challenge at the provincial level. Which means that on this question, I would like to know, the number of veterinarians and animal health technicians that you have that will be deployed as part of the rollout of the mass vaccinations campaigns. Because of the challenges that you have stated in the past, and that we've been discussing. I know that last year we've been discussing to a point where we even asked whether you'll be able to bring back the assistant, the assistant health technicians that you have appointed in 2023, and that eventually you had no budget. Now the question is, do you have the proper resources, both human and technical? I will give it back to you, hand it back to you, Minister, and the DG. And may I request that we respond to these questions such that by 11:30 we will be done with the discussions of the foot and mouth disease. Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll go through to deal with some of the questions that were directed towards me, and obviously the more technical questions we'll obviously get the assistance from the DDG, Dr. Modasani, and also the DG is there. The Ministerial Task Team is there to provide technical advice and assistance to the department and to the Minister. They developed, in conjunction with the department, a heat map which broke the country up into municipal areas and ascribed to each of those municipal areas the category of priority, secondary, or tertiary. These were fully presented at the last presentation that we did to this committee. And that is done, as I said at the time, on the virulence and the seriousness of the outbreak in a particular municipal area. And that the vaccines would be directed in the first instance to those primary areas that have been identified as the highest risk with the highest virulence, but also at the same time that we would have a strategy to deal with both dairy and feedlotting so that we are able to ensure both food security, but also to protect dairy herds from going onwards. I don't think it's going to be realistic or possible to give a 24-hour rollout plan. Obviously, there is a reporting feedback loop, and these would be required, and that's precisely why we have registered people doing the vaccinations, so that they can provide that feedback loop and data. And again, that data is very important, because if we're to move our status of FMD country to FMD free with vaccination to ultimately FMD free without vaccination, that data is really required. The Honourable Indolani, around the issue around the terms of reference, well, we can provide those to you. We'll send them through the chairperson to you. But the ministerial task team, as I said, is a group of technical and veterinary and scientific experts in a variety of veterinary and epidemiological fields that are assisting us. This is distinct to the roles played by the Director General, and bear in mind that no report comes to my office without having gone through the Director General and the Deputy Director General. So there's no usurpation of the Director General or anybody else in the department or the animal health unit in terms of this. They would have to ultimately send reports through to my office. Honourable Trollip, you would know because you attended the press conference that there are no agricultural farmers organisations represented on the ministerial task team. I read the names out. You were present at that meeting, and I'm sure you would have noticed had there been a representative from an agricultural organisation. They are all on there as veterinarians, scientists and technicians, and their job is to advise us on A, the strategy, and B, the vaccinology, the epidemiology, and the rollout thereof, in line with the whole of society approach. Why are they required to sign NDAs? Because it's that committee that assesses vaccines and does likely matching of vaccines and the like. This is obviously very sensitive commercial information and could be abused if utilized in a forum outside. And that was the reason why I took the decision to remove Dr. Dani Odendaal from that committee, because he would not sign the non-disclosure agreement. This is not unusual. There are NDAs that are expected on most ministerial task teams, given the sensitivity that they're working at. Where I think you've been confused is the ICC, which is a body of agricultural organizations, FASA, TLU, Agri-SA, as well as the industry bodies, the Milk Producers Association, RMIS, the Pork Association, and the Red Meat Producers Organization. And of course, there's no requirement of an NDA there. They're not dealing with sensitive commercial information because that information would have already been announced. They are there to assist in the monitoring and communication down to their structures. So it would be completely nonsensical to expect those people to sign an NDA. The heat map, as I said, was developed and presented to this committee, and it sets out very clearly how the vaccine rollout is to be prioritized. Of course, there are high-risk areas in the country with dairy herds, etc., and we are proactively going to launch vaccination in those areas in order to get ahead of the virus spreading. Because, as you so clearly said, these are required in order to protect the industry and to be part of the proactive stopping of the spread. There was no delays in the vaccine arrivals. In fact, the Biogenesis Bago vaccine came in a week ahead of what we had previously announced, and the vaccines have arrived on time. The ARC's vaccine came in a month before they said that they could deliver it. Where we had an issue was with Botswana and the Botswana Vaccine Institute, who had a factory closure in December in order to meet their international laboratory requirements. And that led to a situation where we had to find other places in the world to get vaccines. And now, for the first time, we're able to get vaccines from other countries in the world. The Department of Agriculture does not have anything to do with commercial relations between international companies and their local agents. We have nothing to do with Biogenesis Bago's relationship with their local agents, and we certainly have nothing to do with Design Biologics and their relationship with Biogenesis Bago. That is a commercial matter between those two companies. Our focus is on getting the vaccine. And when Biogenesis Bago removed the agency from Design Biologics, in order to ensure that we remained on track to get those vaccines into the country, the OBP stepped in and carried on with the Section 21 process that had been withdrawn by Genesis Bago, by Design Biologics, to ensure that we were able to still get those vaccines on time. And thank goodness we did, because that's why we have 1 million vaccines currently being distributed out in the field. The section, the amendments were made last year in June. There's another set of amendments that are being done, as well as a Section 9 and 10 scheme in terms of the Animal Diseases Act. Those have been heavily canvassed with both industry and with the sector, as well as our MTT and the departmental scientists. And there are a number of amendments being made to those. I think it was clear in the presentation, the inclusion of sheep and pigs, and some of the other movement control issues. And those will be in my office shortly for signature. Instead of having a fragmented approach around movement controls, what we've wanted to do is to consolidate it. So there's a national movement control scheme in terms of Section 9, which would then prevent the provinces from having, or there being a fractured approach with different rules in different provinces for the movement of animals, which would overcomplicate it and create a lot more red tape. It's better to have a uniform system. Their 50,000 allocation, exactly the same as the Northern Cape, minus the 20,000 that had already been sent there. Now, obviously, with the arrival of 1.5 million vaccines this week and the arrival of 5 million from Biogenesis Bago in the next month, and the 6 million from Dolvet in the next month, we'll obviously be able to massively ramp up the volumes going into those particular provinces. Honourable Nkabani asks around the strategy and says it is a reactive strategy. No, this is a proactive strategy. It's reactive in the sense that we have to get on top of the current outbreak. But I hope you would have seen from the last presentation that was done that for the first time now we have a clear strategy to get ahead of foot and mouth disease in South Africa by proactively vaccinating the entire national herd. And that is the point of this program. For the last 20 years, we've been chasing the disease around the country, waiting for outbreaks and then taking action. What this strategy will do is ensure that we are ahead of foot and mouth disease. And if we break the back of the current outbreak and we meet our target of vaccinating 80% of the national herd by December and reducing the outbreaks by 70%, this could potentially be the last major outbreak of foot and mouth disease we have, because the strategy is now proactively going to vaccinate the entire national herd and prevent further spreads and outbreaks from taking place. You asked me about what the compensation available is. I'd refer you to Section 19 of the Animal Diseases Act, which sets out very clearly the process to be followed should anybody want to apply for compensation. However, it must be emphasized that such an application would have to prove that you made every effort that you could possibly make to prevent the outbreak from happening on your farm. That's going to be very difficult if the disease is traced back to animals that you've brought in from infected areas onto your farm, or where you did not have the necessary biosecurity measures in place on your farm, but Section 19 exists for anybody there. The Honourable Aris asked about movement control and around biosecurity at auctions. The Honourable Aris is absolutely correct. Movement control is a huge problem, and it's a particular problem in South Africa. The entire European Union controls foot and mouth disease solely through movement control. But there is a very high adherence to the regulations in the European Union. And no farmer there would even consider moving animals that he even suspects are infected or could have been contaminated. And that is why they've been successfully able to prevent it. But then again, they don't have the same socioeconomic structures that we have in South Africa. And they obviously have a much higher degree of compliance. We've seen through this outbreak, which is current outbreak, which has been raging since 2021, that there's a very low respect for the regulations and the biosecurity in the country, which is why we are, and you would have noted from our first budget speech, that we've made biosecurity one of the 7 key priorities of the department and rebuilding our biosecurity infrastructure. But we can't just rely on adherence, because it's been very clearly shown that when we declare disease management areas, people move their animals out of those areas. And we can draw all the lovely lines we like on a map in the office in Pretoria, but does that translate to those animals not being moved on the ground? Clearly not. And we've seen outbreaks now in the Western Cape, which can be traced back directly to animals brought in from infected areas in the Northwest. And so in the absence of that high degree of compliance, we have to adopt a different strategy. And that's why we've chosen the proactive vaccination strategy, because clearly movement control has not worked in getting on top of the disease. And it would be foolhardy to continue down the road of relying only on movement control and adherence when it clearly is not being observed in practice. We're working with the Milk Producers Organization, who serve on my implementation and monitoring team. The MPO are present there, as well as other industry players, on how we can ensure that the milk sector survives and is still able to flourish. And obviously, given the fact that there's now a new strategy that hasn't been applied in the past, we will have to change some of the regulations that maybe would have applied in the previous iteration of the foot and mouth response, but which are no longer fit for purpose in terms of the new strategy. And those are the things we're looking at. Nkosi Sebekulu, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I wish we didn't have to import vaccines. I wish that we could produce our own here. But the reality is we lost the capacity to do so in 2015, because these vaccines can only be produced and managed in a BSL-3 laboratory, which is a very high degree of international standards that one has to meet in order to maintain that. And we don't have that BSL-3 capacity, and the manufacturing capability was lost. But what we're doing now is importing vaccines to get on top of this. But as I've told this committee before, and as we've presented before, the ARC has now produced a vaccine, a very good one, the Onderstepoort foot and mouth vaccine, which is a trivalent vaccine. And the good news about that, it is a single dose vaccine. So you don't need to do a booster. It'll last a year. The problem, of course, is manufacturing capacity. And that's why we've been working very closely with the ARC to get them up to a mid-scale facility. In the meantime, they're going to be able to be providing us from the 1st of March 20,000 vaccines a week, which will be rolled out as part of the vaccine process. So we'll be getting 20,000 a week from this year from the ARC. Biogenesis Bago will ultimately be able to bring in 5 million a month. Junevax, 5 million a month. Botswana is going to be able to come back online and give us 1 million. And so we'll get those vaccines from a variety of sources. But the goal is ultimately to produce the OBP vaccine at scale in that mid-scale facility, and then render us vaccine sovereign, where we'll only be able to rely on those vaccines, but always make sure that we maintain a backup in terms of vaccines like Dolvet. The movement of livestock, I mean, you've highlighted exactly the point I was making in response to the Honourable Aris. We can put in regulations, but when they're not adhered to and people don't abide by them, it obviously makes things very difficult. And the reality is the Department of Agriculture can't be the farm manager on every farm across the country. But what we do want to do, and I think the President announced it in the State of the Nation address, is to ensure that we have more extension officers around the country. And the President has been consulting with me over the last 2 to 3 months how we can make this work. And we'll be getting funding to ensure that we can do that. So we have more boots on the ground that can help with the education campaign, particularly in those more rural areas where there's less knowledge capacity on foot and mouth disease, what symptoms to look for and the like, and how to manage animals going forward. And I think that those animal health technicians and the like will make a big difference. I don't have a police force in the Department of Agriculture. If I want to set up roadblocks, we have to go and work in conjunction with national traffic, municipal traffic, and the SAPS. And it's obviously we're reliant on them. But again, they're also stretched. The first question they ask is, well, must we then tell Minister Creasy we can't help this month with drunken driving roadblocks, Minister Schreiber with illegal immigration raids, etc. So we have an overstretched police service. But I hope that with the advent of the animal and extension officers and animal health technicians, that we could perhaps look in the medium to longer term of having them designated as peace officers, which would then give them powers to be able to pull vehicles across and search them without us having to rely on the police. But at the moment, we have to rely on the law enforcement agencies because I don't have any powers in terms of the Animal Diseases Act to be able to enforce it, and I don't have manpower to man those particular issues. As it relates to buffaloes and the interface between the wildlife sector and the livestock sector, this is a particular problem that is almost unique to South Africa, although there are other countries who experience it. And what it means is that we will always have to prophylactically vaccinate in those zones. So the areas that border the Kruger Park, parts of KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga will always have to be vaccinated prophylactically so that we can prevent the spread of those going forward. In terms of buffaloes, it's very difficult with buffaloes. They don't present symptoms, so it's very difficult to determine which buffalo may be carrying foot and mouth disease, which one is not. And you would obviously have to then embark upon a mass vaccination campaign of buffalo. And that in itself is logistically quite difficult. And that is why it's probably better and more cost effective that we vaccinate prophylactically on the interface areas. But it also means that departments like Forestry, Fisheries and Environment are going to have to make sure that the Kruger Park and other areas fix their fences, that they deal with the issue around elephants and the damage that they do to fences and the risk that this poses for the spread of vaccination. Honourable Mkhatama, thank you very much. There are penalties that exist. They set out very clearly in the Animal Diseases Act under Section 32 of the Animal Diseases Act. But again, these penalties are range from fines to jail time. But obviously, it's incredibly important that we are able to trace back, because the moment there's an FMD outbreak on someone's farm, and you say, well, did you bring animals in? Suddenly the information clams up. And then it's up to the department to have to then try and forensically link back where that strain has come from going forward. The capacity for production of vaccines, I think I've covered that already. The requirement of a BSL-3 laboratory is essential. And that is why it's very important that we focus, and I hope the committee is going to work with us over the next year as we move towards a mid-scale facility and ultimately bridging the funding gap to end up with a full-scale facility at the ARC, which will help us to do that. Like you said, is 1 million going to be enough? Of course it's not. There's around 14 million head of the national herd. We also want to do pigs and sheep ultimately. So we're going to need a large number of vaccines. And so I've said we brought in 2 million in the second half of last year. We've brought in 1 million now. This last week, there's 1.5 million arriving this week. And from March, Biogenesis Bago can provide 5 million a month. And JuneVax, the Dolvet vaccine from Turkey, will be able to provide 6 million a month. This will allow us to then reach our target of vaccinating 80% of the national herd by December, and to ensure that we've reduced the incidence of disease by 70%. Honourable Mthethwa, I mean, you obviously have your own views on vaccines and the like. All I can say is that no vaccines are bought and that are expired. In fact, the Biogenesis Bago vaccines that arrived on Saturday last week only expire in 2028. So it was one of the first things that was checked. And obviously, Section 21 applications through SAPRA are very thorough. The import permits done by the Department of Agriculture are very thorough, and they're thorough for a reason. They're thorough because we want to prevent any negative consequences through a dropping of the ball or allowing some problems to occur. The vaccines are internationally very well respected and have been used in many foot and mouth outbreaks, including the massive outbreak that's currently happening in the Middle East, the massive outbreak that's currently underway in Asia, and the massive outbreak that's currently underway in other parts of Africa. And the vaccines have been matched with the field strains of our own SAT1, 2, and 3 outbreaks, and are perfectly safe to be used. Foot and mouth disease is not a zoonotic disease, so it cannot pass to humans, and humans cannot be affected by it. And so too with the vaccine. It poses no risk whatsoever to humans and the like. Of course, I'd love us to be able to be using South African vaccines only, but the reality is with the amounts that they can provide, it's unfortunately insufficient to do that. As it relates to veterinarians, well, SAVAC is the recognized body that we deal with, and they're the only body that we deal with. And as you know, we've recently reconstituted that committee. It is made up of veterinarians who represent the sector in terms of the SAVAC Act, and it's their responsibility to now make sure they perform their functions. Chairperson, what does it mean that we're now a disaster? Well, we're hoping it's going to mean more funds from Treasury, and there's ongoing engagements. DG has written letters to Treasury indicating what our vaccine needs and asks are going to be, and to make sure that we can get more funding to fund the vaccines. But I think the biggest area where it'll help is to get FMD taken seriously by the law enforcement agencies, and to get it onto the agenda of NatJoint so it can help with movement control. It's going to be very important that we continue there. The provincial capacities, well, we've had 2 laboratories that have stepped up and have offered. Allerton in KwaZulu-Natal and the Western Cape's provincial laboratory has recently applied for to be tested. Of course, other agencies we can look at, but we must bear in mind that these strains are a very, very controlled substance and have to be treated in a very specific way. You cannot, for instance, use these or test or have these strains tested in any laboratory that is dealing with human capacity. So there would have to be a separate facility within your operation to deal with animal diseases, and there's very good reasons for that. The lack of enforcement, I think I've covered some of that. On vets, I again remind members that veterinary services are a provincial function, and I think it would be right that you receive a update on the number of unfilled vacancies in provincial level, because that is clearly one of the issues that we face, that when we have a national problem, when the Constitution has provided an exclusive area of provincial competence, and you press the button and then you see that there are large vacancies that have been filled in veterinary services at a provincial level that have been neglected over a number of years, it does create problems. And I mean, I would certainly welcome the engagement with the department and your committee to demonstrate to you where these vacancies are and the risks that they pose. And obviously this is a big issue, but like fencing and like pounds that Honourable Tebekulu raised, these are exclusive areas of local and provincial competence. And they are areas that those spheres of government need to actually take far more seriously going forward. And obviously, we can't just turn a blind eye and say, well, it's your job, not ours. Given the fact that we're in the midst of an FMD crisis, those spheres of government need to be stepping up in those regards and filling those vacancies and performing those functions in order to ensure that we are able to. I can't start a pound because it is outside my area of exclusive legislative competence. It is an exclusive area of provincial and local government competence. On the rollout, we'll obviously, you would have noticed, we've released the forms for private veterinarians to register, and we're pretty sure we'll get a big uptake there. We've got animal health technicians. We've got that have been taken on by the department. We've got community service veterinarians that we're going to be using to help us with the rollout. And of course, other designated vaccinators that would be used to run. The answer in short to your question is no. We don't have the capacity to do it ourselves, which is why we've adopted a partnership approach with those other sectors to assist us with the vaccination. It's not unlike the same partnership that we agreed with Aspen and with Discovery, etc., during the COVID-19 crisis, that we could roll out those vaccines. I would, however, say that we do need to have as I've said many times before, a broader discussion around biosecurity in South Africa. I think we really need to relook at our biosecurity ecosystem in the country, because foot-and-mouth disease is just one of a variety of animal and plant diseases that pose a risk to South Africa's agriculture sector going forward. Thanks, Chair. I'll hand back to DG for the technical responses on some of the questions, such as the cost of the vaccine landed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister, and thanks to the members of the Portfolio Committee for the questions. Maybe a few issues that Ndadesra would like to reflect on before I come in. I've got only 3 issues that I would like to quickly raise. Ndadesra, if you're on the platform.
Thank you, DG, and good morning to Minister and members of the committee. Just a few things, really. Others, I think the Minister covered most of the questions asked, and even there aren't really outstanding technical questions, except on the capacity. Just to reiterate, we've got 158 compulsory community service veterinarians that will be using to augment the vaccination capacity. We will also, we are in the process of appointing additional animal health technicians who are unemployed. One honorable member mentioned, yes, indeed, we have the records shows we have got 240 unemployed animal health technicians, and we have started the process. We're going to start with the 50. They should start shortly, and with additional funding that we've been able to secure, prioritize rather, from our department, we should be able to get more. And the other one is with regard to the capacity, basically that also Minister touched, but we also would be augmenting the capacity of the Agricultural Research Council. At the moment, the current facility gives us about 13,000 doses, and once we get the fermenter that we're busy working towards acquiring, we should be able to have 96,000 doses per cycle. A cycle is about 2 months. This would get us gradually off importation of vaccines. So as we would get over to the more fit-for-purpose facility, which we have already engaged National Treasury about. There's a plan, everything is in place, all the design, architectural work, quantity surveying and everything else have been done. We're looking for additional funding. And another one of our members mentioned whether we could have a private sector also assisting. And yes, we welcome private sector assistance, except that the control of foot and mouth disease, and as members are already aware, the foot and mouth disease virus, the virus is very virulent, and all the disease itself is trade sensitive. Hence, you have this central control, and you wouldn't want everybody else to have the access of the samples. So provincial laboratories that are being augmented to ensure that they're able to have first have SANA's accreditation. Secondly, that they should be able to handle samples. We will look into that, but members should also be aware already by now that once the laboratory is in operation, in the laboratory basically tests unknown foreign material, unknown material, biological material, because we don't know yet what is it that we take into the lab. So that poses danger to the area. If you look at the location of the Honors Report biological product, it's a location that was carefully selected. So you can think of other provincial laboratories where they are. It may just create a challenge. But so far, we're looking into augmenting the capacity. Just one more on capacity. We have, as a immediate to short-term measure, bringing all the veterinary technologies from the provinces to come and work at the Honors Report so that we can clear all the backlog, so that we can be able to conduct testing as quickly as possible. So those are the things that I think which require, which I thought require just additional emphasis. Thank you, DG.
Thank you very much, Ntate Srage. Honorable Chair, if you just allow me to respond to the 4 issues that I have identified in terms of the engagement, starting with Minister's issue around the costs that we are having. From a perspective of Dolvet, the cost is just under 50 rands, 45 to be exact. And for the imports that come from Argentina with Biogenesis Bago, it is just under 80 rands, 78 rands. But this cost that we are talking about exclude the duties, the taxes that have got to be paid by the importers, in this case, OBP, to deal with the matters of clearing the consignments. A few matters that I thought there would be emphasis on. I think Honorable Davids and Honorable Dalani raised an issue around the chain of command in the government system and how the government system works. And I would like to indicate that that's how government needs to operate. The Animal Diseases Act is very clear in terms of the responsibilities of the minister, the responsibilities of the Director Animal Health, and the responsibilities of the DG. And therefore, any issue that comes from the MTT comes, as Minister indicated, as a recommendation that still have got to be distilled and processed within the department to see whether it would be viable for implementation. And this is also known by members of the task team as transferred and known by also representatives of the department in the form of Dr. Mkhajane and Dr. Mudisan. Now, there is also an element that the 2 colleagues are also aware of, Section 38 of the PFMA in terms of the responsibilities of the accounting officer and what can and cannot be done in terms of that process. And therefore, those issues are being looked at with the scrutiny that it deserves, because at the end of the day, decisions that are to be taken are government decisions. I just need been referring to quite a number of times to say that there is a declaration of a disaster. There has not been a declaration as yet. There has been a classification of a disaster where there is a view in terms of the magnitude of the event, the severity of the event, and the type of occurrence, whether it occurs in multiple provinces, so that there can be a placement of responsibility, whether at municipal level, at provincial level, or at national level. So this classification means that FMD should be managed at national level. Now, this classification gives us 2 important areas of engagement. The first one is around the use of our own budgets, whether it's budgets that are within the provincial sphere or within the national sphere as we utilize them, that we can then start utilizing those budgets accordingly and reprioritize the budgets. The only time that we can then access other budgets other than the ones that we have is when there is a declaration of an event, in this case, FMD. But in terms of this classification, we can also utilize coordination that is being done within the National Disaster Management Center that allows us access to use adjoints who have to date also made sure that we have got the capacity where, and if we want to have capacity to deal with issues around the deployment of law enforcement agencies, we can do that within this particular current classification that we have. The next issue that I thought was very important, honorable members, to address was an issue around, and Tatisra has touched base on it, around the use of extension officers, animal health technicians that we are having. I think we are waiting with bated breath for the allocations that would come through from National Treasury based on what the President had indicated. If it so happens that when the budget is being outlaid, that we get those funds, I think it will be a huge boost in terms of us. And as you have given the indication right through, the 5,000 would come in very handy, subject to the budget being availed to the department. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for the chance, and the department submits.
Thank you very much, DG. Honorable members, I want to believe that you are happy with your responses from both the minister and the DG and the DDG Serache. I want to thank the minister and his team, comprised of DDG Serache and the DDG Madisan and the DG, for the presentation that we've made after we have requested that you update us. And Minister, it is indeed noted that you will not necessarily be available every time the update is made on a Tuesday. However, at any a given moment where you are available, because you have to be leading the team every time, we would appreciate that you avail yourself. You have heard today that most of the questions were directed to yourself, so we will need you to be here. But we take note of the fact that indeed you may not necessarily be able to be here every Tuesday, but we appreciate that today you are here, and that we do appreciate that in the future you'll make time. And thank you very much, DG and the DDGs, for the responses. We hope that when we meet next week, you will then be able to update us on how far have you improved, and how far would the vaccinations have happened in the provinces, including the engagements that you are having with the Treasury on finances, and the engagements that you have, and the assistance that you should have from the police and the other government institutions that are supposed to be helping you in terms of making sure that we close the gap and fight together the foot and mouth disease. Once more, thank you very much. We'll see you next week with the updates again. Now you have a good afternoon, and you are therefore released, Minister. I don't know whether you have something to say, but we are releasing you now until next week.
Thank you. Thank you to you, Chair, and thank you to the officials from the department, and thank you to the committee members.
Thank you very much. You are released, Minister and the team. Honourable members, we now have to take the second item, which is the oversight report. I would appreciate if you can, put it up, Notes or Albertina. Thank you very much, colleagues. I'm just checking if the departmental team has left us so that we can then continue. Yeah. Okay, so honorable members, last week when we postponed this item, I then requested that honorable members must go and read through the document because it's long, but we also made an emphasis that it would be appreciated if you could go specifically to the two items that would be very important for you. And we requested that once we have gone through the observations and the recommendations, if there are certain things that you feel that they are not covered, you will then be able to come back and submit, so that by the time we come here today, everybody else would have been covered on the issues that would not have been covered according to each individual, because we all were at the oversight. And we've had three types, I think, we've had three meetings where we've had to deal with issues of the oversight. We went to the Eastern Cape the first time and we met with the trust and the communities, and we were left with the private partners, and we went back early this year. We covered that part only to find that the Simpson brothers were not available. We came back and met with them here. So, and it was on the day when we were supposed to, in terms of our program, it was on the day when we were supposed to finalize the report. So we had to postpone it and make sure that the information that they gave us in their presentation and in their responses from your questions should be inculcated in the report, and we did that. So we have every information that has to do with the visit to the Eastern Cape on the citrus growers and the macadamia project. The other thing, just before we go into this presentation, because I wanted to just clarify so that Knox doesn't go through the entire report, but go to the elements that are very important, given the fact that most of our time again was taken by the foot and mouth disease update, which is very important though. I want to indicate on the foot and mouth disease update and the situation. I wanted to propose, honorable members, that given the fact that we've had KZN having been declared by the department an epicenter of this FND, and now we have the Free State and all other provinces being infected, but we now realize on the statistics that the Free State seems to be going towards the route of KZN. There are infections on a daily basis, and the numbers are very high. When we look at the statistics there that were presented, so my proposal was that we need to go to one of the provinces to go and check the veracity of this foot and mouth disease, and even though we do not have it's not yet an oversight period, but because we sit with this disaster situation of the foot and mouth disease, that as a committee we should go and check on our own and do oversight, so that when the department comes back to come and brief us on an update, they update us on something that we have an idea of. And my proposal was that we should be going to the Free State and see for ourselves as to what is the situation, then meet the organizations there that would be able to brief us on what is the situation, especially because now the vaccines have been issued out to provinces. Maybe we will then be able to see how it's distributed there in the province and how the distribution is implemented. The second part, colleagues, is that both Honorable Trollip and Honorable Smith in the group, they raised very important issues. One of the issues that have been raised by Honorable Smith was that wouldn't it be possible for us to meet with the provinces? And I said we will wait until we hear this presentation today, then we can take a decision. I want to believe that maybe on the proposal that you've made, Honorable Smith, it would help if we were to get a joint sitting or a joint meeting with the committee. Do you call it? It's not a portfolio committee. What is it?
Select committee.
The select committee. Thank you very much. The select committee at from the NCOP. And I wanted us to take a decision here before we could communicate with the chairperson of the select committee on the matter. Then the second issue that was raised by Honorable Trolley was that we request the department to brief us on the the sugar part, the
Tonga Hewlett.
Yes, the Tonga Hewlett challenge there. And I think that it's a very important proposal that you have made, Honorable Trolley. We need to request the department to do so. But over and above that, honorable members, I thought that we may need also to get a brief from the department that hosts the master plan, which is a trade and industry. And I'm sure they would definitely probably be able to give us an idea of what is happening. We know that that problem, it's a private sector issue. We know that this problem started some time ago. And the Department of Agriculture is actually responsible for supporting primary producers, which is the sugarcane growers here that are affected, which their produce is actually processed through the Tonga Hewlett, in particular in KZN and the others in other provinces. And that the sugar industry is regulated again by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. Hence, we have that master plan with them there. So I'm raising this because I want you to advise on how we should be doing it, where we should be studying. However, as much as the TTIC is responsible for the regulations, the Department of Agriculture and the TTIC together are playing a very important role. Then there's an element of the Industrial Development Corporation, the ITC, which is the entity of the TTIC, which invested funds in the business rescue operation of the Tonga Hewlett. And I think that probably we will also need to have that briefing from the ITC for us to be able to understand better the situation there, because it will definitely affect the sugarcane growers. They have already raised issues. So for those challenges, I think the three departments, or the two departments and this entity, the ITC, they may want to come brief us on the challenges of the company, including the issues around the liquidation, and if it goes ahead, indeed it will have a very impact and a negative impact on the sugarcane growers. So yeah, I wanted to raise these matters because you raised them, colleagues, and I'm sure you must have probably additional information, or just to say, do you agree, and how do we, on how I propose that we handle the situation. I'm worried about particularly the SMEs, and want to know how the department is going to assist them, and whether the department has done any study, recently on the impact to sugarcane growers in relation to this situation. Thank you very much, colleagues. I will allow you to comment on this one. I'll allow you, Honorable Tolip, and then Honorable Smith, and then we'll take Honorable Davids. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Honorable Davids, can you switch off your mic, please? Thank you, Honorable Smith, Tolip.
Thank you very much, Chair. Look, I think if we could get the relevant department to do a presentation to us about the status of Tongaat Euliths. There is talk now that the Department of Trade and Industry is intervening to prevent liquidation of this company, because there are some concerns that there might be a hostile takeover of this company, and if it is taken over in a hostile manner, I don't think it will be beneficial to people growing sugarcane, especially in KZN. But also, if it's liquidated, it could have devastating consequences for the sugar industry and all the people involved in the sugar industry. So I think it would be really beneficial for us to get a presentation from the Department of Trade and Industry. Then, Chair, with regard to the committee report, I said last week that we should make submissions to Nokolo, who'd with the team that compiled this report. I thought the report was excellent. I do think, however, that it is a little bit light with regards to findings and recommendations. And despite me making a commitment that we should all try and make submissions before the end of last week, I just actually didn't get around to doing it.
Yeah.
I think the work of that outreach or oversight that we did is just too important for us to submit a report that is light in any way. There's no doubt that the report itself is very comprehensive, because it's basically a verbatim interaction of what happened. So that I support 100%. However, I do want to appeal to you, Chair, to give us another opportunity to make some submissions. I just think that it's too important. I mean, issues around farmer support, issues around the department continuing to fail, to support failing projects or projects that have the hallmarks of failure. Unless we change that, we're going to continue throwing good money after bad, and we'll have more and more Nega macadamia nut examples littered along the way of our rural development and agrarian reform. So I plead culpability. I should have done this. I haven't done it, but I will apply my mind to it today and make a submission to Albertina and the team for consideration. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Honorable Trollip, thank you very much. It's noted. I will just check with Knox if anyone has submitted, but it's really understandable, because we have to make up our mind in relation to this report. Whatever we submit as a recommendation, it should take into consideration the situation that we have seen there. Honorable Smith.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Yeah, I think this is very important. I think one part you actually left out, because it starts with OBP, and their capacity to deal with the distribution part, because we know that we had issues with OBP when we started off, and saw it with our oversight as well. And the distribution is a key part in making sure that the vaccines land where it needs to land. So I think that should be a engagement with OBP, so that they lay out to us very urgently on what is their plans to roll out the distribution. And I'm totally in support of us having a joint meeting with the NCOP. But I would take it further, that we also then summons all departments of agriculture, in the provinces, to make sure that we get a brief on that. And that, is going to be a big engagement. So I would really suggest the importance and urgency of this matter, that we have a marathon meeting, where we can go through and make sure that each and every province is on board, and that they have got plans in place, so that that can be addressed. Because if that is not going to be done throughout, then the strategy is problematic, as this rollout needs to run smoothly throughout. As vaccination, if you don't follow through with it, then you start patching, and then the actual strategy will fail. So they've got a very important role to play in terms of that. So that is my suggestion. I think we should go far beyond just having a standard meeting, and make sure that we actually address this matter, and as a matter of urgency, because this is happening now. And as we heard from the minister, that the following vaccines is coming in through this week, and possibly as well next week and thereafter, where millions of vaccines come in, and we can't allow that to stand and not getting down on the ground and making sure that there's a smooth flow. Thank you, Chair. Oh, sorry, Chair. The last matter is, I unfortunately were not able to attend the meeting where the briefing happened on the study tour, but I saw that there's still a conflict on the latest program, on the timing of the study tour. So I don't know if we've maybe got an update on that as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we agree on the proposals, the two proposals, that we should have a meeting with the Department of Trade and Industry. They must come and then brief us. Honorable Smith, you just added OPP, am I right? That they should also come and make a briefing.
Yes, Chairperson. It's very important, because we should start with them, and then from there it flows to the provinces, so that we have the whole value chain.
Okay. No, that's fine. Thank you very much. Then we will have in the meeting that we're proposing with the NCOP, is that we should then include the provinces, the MECs, and the HOTs. All right. Yeah. No, that's fine. I think the one thing that you have not commented on, colleagues, is the issue around visiting the Free State. My worry is that Free State seems like it's going towards the route of KZN, and is there
Totally support that.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Honorable Davids.
Thank you, Chair. I support the first proposal of going to Free State, so that we can be hands-on. So I support the oversight results of Free State, and I think it must happen before the second batch that will be distributed. And then, Chair, I agree with that we must have a joint meeting with the Department of Trade and Industry on the sugar production issue, but also, Chair, also, Chair, the NCOP, I agree also on the NCOP, with the NCOP, but including the MECs and the heads of the departments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I think we agree on these ones. Then there's a proposal that Honorable Trollip has made on the report. The last time we had requested that, and I think coming from him also, that the members should be given an opportunity to make inputs on the report. And we ended up agreeing on that last week. So now he's proposing that we extend a bit so that he can also be able to, add input. And so I don't want us to go through the report and then later on we come back and say these are the additions. I want to hear from yourselves, colleagues. I don't have a problem that we extend and get a proper report, because my take is that it's not an ordinary recommendation. It's not ordinary recommendations that we must make here. They have to be over and above very serious recommendations that are going to dictate on the funding of the projects of this magnitude and of this type in future for the department. So there is a proposal that Honorable Trollip has made. Can I hear colleagues? Knox, you will have to we wait for the colleagues. Colleagues, do you agree that we extend at the time that members should add information that they would like to add? Members, I'm not alone, am I?
I agree, Chair.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, colleagues. Then it means we will, with the team, Albertina Knox, we will look at it and see. We will remind members again that they submit inputs. We'll start reminding you today, colleagues, so that it would, when you submit, it will determine the date that we are going to bring it. Probably we'll bring it next week. So we close that matter on the report, Knox. On that note, we will then take the minutes. I'm sorry, Knox, you'll have to take down your report. Albertina, can you put on the minutes, please? I'm not sure whether I'm talking alone. Albertina, you can scroll up, colleagues. These are the minutes of the 2nd of December, 2025. Albertina, you can scroll down. And I take that, colleagues, you have read them. You will stop us as Albertina scrolls if you have a correction to make. Colleague, there are your minutes. May I hear a voice that supports if these are the true reflection of the meeting that we had on the 2nd of December 2025?
Chairperson, I move that we accept them as a true reflection.
Yeah, there's a
I
mover.
second, Chair. Honorable
I
Kabane.
second, Chair.
Honorable Nkabane seconds. Let's go to the next set of minutes. Albertina, I was talking alone here. I'm muted. Albertina, I wanted to check as to which date is this set of minutes. Yeah, this is the 3rd of February. Okay. The department was briefing us on that foot and mouth disease strategy. You can go down. Colleagues, you will stop us if you feel like there's something that you want to raise. If you want to correct. Okay. Colleagues, may I hear a voice that supports the minutes as a true reflection of our meeting?
Chairperson, I move.
Chair.
Honorable David moves and Honorable David.
Support, Chair.
Thank you very much. The last set of minutes, Albertina. Thank you. This is the minutes for last week. I take it. The 10th of Feb. You can go down, Albertina. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, I have flu. Colleagues, they are the minutes. Do you agree that they are the true reflection of our meeting?
Honorable Kabane here, Chair. I agree.
Okay, Honorable Nkabane moves for the adoption. Any seconder?
Seconds, Chair.
That is it, seconds. Thank you very much. My appreciation, colleagues. This was the last set of minutes that we're supposed to approve, and I want to thank you very much for a very good meeting, but also the proposals that you have made that are going to assist us as a portfolio committee to work very hard to monitor the department during their work and in their work on a daily basis. We will meet next week if there are updates on the proposals that we've made, because I'm going to meet with the team. We will see how we arrange all the meetings that we have agreed upon here, and then it will then be posted so that you can see on the group, but we'll also communicate through your emails. Colleagues, thank you very much for your time. The meeting is official.
Sorry.
Me?
Yes, my apology. I've put up my hand. My apology if I've missed it, Chair. I quickly needed to run to the loo when after I asked about the study tour. Did you mention anything on that? Just my apology. Sorry, I didn't hear.
Oh, yes. No, we didn't. You know what we have done? We have not changed the date. We have submitted to the office of the House Chair to be able to approve, because of the fact that the parliamentary program always changes.
Keep on changing.
Yeah, so we thought if we change and then all of a sudden the parliamentary program changes into the initial date that we had changed for, it will be a problem. So we'll leave it as that, and then we'll see what happens once they approve. Even if the dates have to change, it's fine. But if we have an approval, then it will help us.
Very well. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. And sorry for repeating that.
No, don't worry. You assisted. Thank you very much. Colleagues, the meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Chair.
Chair. Bye.
Bye.
Abunyambosi sawubona.
Yebo.
Anifuna ukuphuma kwi-meeting no Mama Davids.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Recording stopped.